everybody, it's me, Jason Torchinsky, and welcome to another episode of Jason Drives. Although this time, I'm not really driving because I'm in an amphibious hobby car and I'm on the water. So, welcome to Jason Boats. So this particular hobby car is the model 612, B612 actually. That number doesn't seem to have anything to do with the engine. It's not a 6-cylinder, it's not a 1.2 liter. It's called the B612 because that was the number given to the asteroid that the Little Prince of the famous book, The Little Prince, lived on. They built in France a huge factory to build these cars, which at the time sold for about 50 grand. Translated to now, these things would have gone for between like $95,000 and $100,000. It's just such a strange choice. You don't usually think, let's make $100,000 amphibious convertible mid-engine vans. That's usually not at the top of the list in the brainstorming session. There had to be some niche that they were eyeing of very wealthy people who had estuaries, and maybe they lived on an isthmus and had to cross a canal, and they wanted to do it not necessarily with style, but with notoriety. A big part of me wants to be as much like them as possible. It's sort of like if you decided you wanted to make a car that used each and every most interesting thing about other cars and just cram them all together, you'd get this. I mean, it's got 4-wheel drive, it's mid-engine, it has the hydropneumatic suspension out of a Citroën that lets you raise and lower the car. It's amphibious, which is pretty much the holy grail of that's an interesting trait about your car, in that you can drive it into the water. Every weird thing about a car, they've managed to cram into this one genuinely bonkers vehicle. They seem to take like a special delight in adding more stuff for water and land use. And servicing this thing, I'm told, is a nightmare because there's no good access to anything. You pretty much have to take the body off to do any work at all. I haven't really lived with this thing to know how useful it would actually be, but I can imagine situations where I've decided to live on an island in the middle of a placid lake, and I still need to commute to my job as a person who receives money for being an idiot. Then this thing would be kind of ideal. So Jeff, I've driven this on the road. It's pretty conventional. It's a little weird, but I get it. So now we're gonna go in the water. Why don't you just show me what everything does?
Okay. So first thing you gotta do is you push the air compressor button. The air compressor holds the wheels up.
I gotcha, okay.
So you gotta let it get up to 5 PSI before you get in the water. The lever by your right leg here, so you bring that all the way down so the wheels come up.
Gotcha.
Then you flip this lever, which holds the wheels up, so they won't come down when you're in the water, which you don't want them to do.
So almost all of these are just to tuck those wheels up.
Tuck the wheels up. It's got forward and reverse, but we just leave it in forward.
Okay.
And then when you get down to the water, you just push this button, which engages the propellers, and then you push the bilge pump, and then you steer
that tiny
with the
little
joystick, left and right.
Throttle for the...
That's a hand throttle if you want to use it.
So I don't even deal with the steering wheel.
The steering wheel doesn't. In fact, you shouldn't turn the wheels because the wheels are tucked up in the
right.
wheel well.
There's no room.
And they could kind of hit the body. So you kind of just want to take your hands off the steering wheel.
I'm heading over into the lake, and there's the suspension's at the lowest setting, and it's very, very crazy bouncy. All right. There's the props. Change it to water. And then I guess I just go in at this point. Here I go. All right, it seems to have worked. All right, so I'm driving around here in the hobby car in the water, and it's very bizarre. You don't steer with the steering wheel. I'm steering with this tiny ass little joystick, which looks a lot like the kind of joystick I had on my old Apple II. I also want to point out that our camera car right now is possibly the coolest camera car we've ever had. It's an Amphicar. You have no feedback. You're basically hitting this little joystick that's actuating these little vanes on the jets that this thing has got propulsing it. It's like whenever you hit the joystick right, it sends a little politely worded letter to the vanes that control the thrust. Says, hey, if you guys feel like it, how about going right for a little bit? And then the vanes think for a little bit. Half the time they say, no, we're cool. We're okay going straight. Even cars that are far more valuable than this, if I drive them into a lake, you're pretty boned. You take a Bugatti Veyron, I don't care how much more engineering went into that, although for this crazy complicated car, probably less than you think. But I drive it into a lake, and then you're like that guy chasing that pelican that he says he saw. Look at these poor chumps towing their boats into the water. They have to come back and retrieve their cars. I have nothing but pity and maybe a little bit of contempt for them. These Amphicar guys, sure, they're the most popular amphibious car, but they're so smug about it. So we're gonna have a drag race. Come on, hobby car. Man, we're full throttle. Well, okay. Amphicar is beating me soundly. This is bullshit. I'm in a diesel with twice the horsepower, probably well over twice the torque of that thing. I've got jet skis instead of crude old vinyl propellers, and he left me like I was some filthy fat ass sturgeon. We're gonna challenge the Amphicar to a drag race on land, see if maybe the hobby car can regain a little bit of dignity. Yeah! If your life is really about going wherever you possibly can, wherever anything takes you, the hobby car is kind of perfect. Because if your whole thing is you just want to go and you don't care where you are and you don't want to stop for anybody and just keep exploring, this is pretty fantastic. You gotta have a need to just drive into water for fighting some sort of placid water crime. It's not very responsive. Oh, what the hell was that? Get out of here, bug. Maybe fish trafficking or mermaid pestering. This guy's got like a little party barge thing over here. It's not doing that much more boat-wise that this thing isn't doing. It's more of a, excuse me. He doesn't realize the true joy of an amphibious vehicle. Hello, hey buddy, I'm just bad-mouthing your life choices.